Well, a very good afternoon to you and welcome to Up to Date at 1. My name is Abdiaziz Hashim. It is the last day of the month of July 2019. Welcome to the program. We do start this coverage at the education sector, where JKUAT graduate might lose their master's and PhD degrees after the university was flagged for flouting regulation in awarding postgraduate degrees. This is after the Commission for University Education confirmed that the high number of PhD awards from JKUAT since 2014 were not correctly earned. Findings of the inquiry into the Doctor of Philosophy degrees offered at the university revealed a major deficiency in the quality of degree certificates from the institution in the job market. In the last three graduations held in June and November 2018 as well as June 2019, a total of 327 PhD degrees and 2,101 master's degrees were awarded. JKUAT offered 118 PhD awards in June alone this year. The audit established that a critical number of the teaching staff identified as supervisors were based in the main campus, putting into question the quality of training of the majority of PhD graduates trained in satellite campuses. It was observed that many of the supervisors were carrying a supervision load that is beyond the recommended threshold of 3 PhDs and 5 masters in any given academic year. The Commission has directed the University Senate to meet and make a decision on the issues raised and report back to the Commission within 3 months. Further, some were still holding administrative position, a scenario the Commission says compromises the quality of postgraduate training and research in the university. For 2019, out of the 118 PhD graduates, 112 have been approved by the Senate and their names appeared in the graduation booklet, while the remaining 6 were administratively approved for graduation by the Vice-Chancellor on behalf of the Senate, and their names were also published in the graduation booklet. On Monday, Education CS George Magoha reiterated his earlier remarks that higher education as currently established requires a radical surgery, with options of closing down some universities and doing away with some courses now looming large. Now away from the education sector, elsewhere, the Punguza Mizigo referendum push has received a heavyweight blow after the High Court this morning stopped the 47 county assemblies across the country from debating and approving a bill fronted by the Ekuro Court-led Third Way Alliance Party. Justice James Makau also stopped the party from presenting the bill to the Speaker of the National Assembly, that is Justin Muturi, pending a case filed in court against it.
So we are here basically to walk the members of the County Assembly of Murang'a. And then at 3, we are expected in Embu, County Assembly again.
Tuesday, and the Ekuro Court-led Third Way Alliance Party took their Punguza Mizigo gospel to the counties of Murang'a and Embu in a bid to solidify support ahead of the presentation of the bill to the counties for debate.
Tomorrow will be at the County Assembly of Nairobi, and then on Thursday we'll be in Nyandarua County Assembly, and on Friday we'll be in Garissa County Assembly.
That was not to happen, however, after the High Court this morning put on hold our court's county assembly tours until a case filed at the High Court to completely stop our court is heard and determined. High Court Judge James Makau gave the orders which effectively bars the 47 county assemblies from debating and approving the Punguza Mizigo draft bill. Our court's party was cut short after a petitioner, that is David Kamaungari, and the International Economic Law Center told the court that the IEBC could not have handled the process effectively since it doesn't have the requisite quorum, as there are only 2 commissioners and the chairman. Other issues raised in the petition to stop our court's moment of glory are that the Punguza Mizigo push, premised on the reduction in representation and specifically cutting of constituencies from 290 to 47, goes against the fundamental political rights under Article 38 and the rights of Kenyans to be represented under Article 81D of the Constitution. Another contention is the proposal to make the Senate the upper house with veto power, which the petitioners argue will cause legislative confusion because the Senate will still retain power to legislate on matters relating to the counties, and yet the bulk of lawmaking is reposed in the National Assembly under Article 95. The debate around the authenticity of signatures came back to haunt our court and party as the petitioners say it was impossible to verify the signatures because the electoral body does not have a repository of specimen for signature comparison. According to Ngari, the verification process was done manually, yet the law says voters should be registered biometrically. He says that the alleged verification and approval of the bill is unconstitutional, null and void. Justice James Macau says the orders will remain in force for 14 days as other parties named in the petition, including the IEBC and the 47 county assemblies, file their responses.
Now away from the Punguza Mizigo budget, and let's head over to Turkana County, where the governor says, "I am well." These are the words of Turkana Governor Josephat Nanok, who has dismissed reports that emerged alleging that he has been hospitalized. The county boss further said that he had not suffered a mild stroke as claimed in the reports. The Turkana County head, through a tweet, reiterated that he is well and ignored the reports that claimed the governor suffered a mild stroke and was hospitalized. The Council of Governors also dismissed the allegation that Governor Nanok was unwell. This comes even as the country is still mourning the loss of the Iron Lady Bomet Governor Dr. Joyce Laboso, and the family prepares for the burial. In connection to that story, a memorial service for Kibra Member of Parliament Ken Okoth will be held this afternoon at Starehe Boys Center, where he schooled. This burial date tentatively set for Saturday amid wrangles in the family on where his remains should be interred. As Busara Naman reports, a requiem mass for the Bomet Governor Joyce Laboso will also be held in Nairobi at All Saints Cathedral on Thursday.
The committee planning the funeral arrangements of the late Kibra lawmaker Ken Okoth released a farewell program to guide the itinerary leading to his final send-off. The late Okoth succumbed to colorectal cancer on Friday last week at the Nairobi hospital. The committee, led by former Ndhiwa MP Agostino Neto, said that there will be a public viewing of the body on Wednesday at the Lee Funeral Home before a memorial service is held by Starehe community between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. On Thursday, the body will be taken to Moi Girls High School in Kibra constituency, Nairobi, for public viewing between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. The civil society, where the late lawmaker has been hailed as a champion for education and human rights, will hold a commemoration between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. at the University of Nairobi on Friday. His burial date is tentatively set for Saturday at the Gotrateng Open Grounds in Kasipul, Kabondo. Elsewhere, Energy Cabinet Secretary Charles Keter, who chairs the funeral committee for Bomet Governor Joyce Laboso, said a requiem mass will be held in Nairobi at the All Saints Cathedral. The requiem mass will be held on Thursday before the body is taken to Bomet for public viewing at the Bomet Green Stadium until Friday afternoon. Laboso will be buried on Saturday at her home in Fort Tenan, Kisumu County, according to her family and the organizing committee. Laboso succumbed to cancer on Monday while undergoing treatment at the Nairobi hospital, barely 2 weeks after returning back to the country from India, where she had gone to seek treatment for cancer. She was in the UK earlier before she was taken to India. Busara Naman for Ebru TV.
That you are born original, don't die a copy.
Now let's go back to the education sector, where schools have been directed to use a standard financial reporting template that will help the secondary school teachers misappropriating funds. The Public Sector Accounting Standards Board said the template will enhance accountability and transparency in the administration of public finances.
The template contains non-financial information such as school performance, resource allocation per student from the government, fee debtors, suppliers and amount owed to them. Board's acting chief executive officer Patrick Abachi said the move is aimed at ensuring that public secondary schools adopt a uniform financial reporting mechanism so as to enhance accountability. Besides school fees, the template will also capture other income-generating activities for the schools that have been a cash cow for principals who have been understating the money they make from such ventures. Some big schools have large tracts of land where they have been running profitable agriculture ventures, which now must be captured in the financial statements. Board Acting CEO Patrick Habachi said, and I quote, "We have approximately over 9,000 public secondary schools in the country which get direct exchequer allocations each year, totaling to almost 60 billion shillings to supplement the free secondary education program." Abachi added that, on top of this, we are aware that some of these schools also have income-generating activities which need to be reflected in their financial statements. It is for this reason that we, in consultation with the Ministry of Education, came up with a simplified reporting template for this category. This comes days after the Ministry of Education called upon school auditors to scrutinize usage of fees in public primary and secondary schools across the country. The government has also been pumping hundreds of millions of shillings to the newly created national schools, but Public Sector Accounting Standard Board said only a handful of the national schools have adopted the reporting framework. Mr. Abachi said the board is preparing to conduct capacity building to enable bursars, finance officers, principals and boards of management prepare and interpret the financial statements. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Kaindo Stefano.
Now to the international front, where U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is headed to the Southeast Asia, Australia and Micronesia, and is not ruling out working levels talks with the North Korean officials on the sidelines of the ASEAN regional meetings in Thailand this week.
Thailand is the first stop for the top U.S. diplomat, where he will chair a U.S.-ASEAN meeting on Thursday discussing the shared vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific. But questions about potential talks with North Korea seem to follow Pompeo wherever he goes.
And I hope that we can achieve that. Well, I head to Asia tomorrow midday. I'll be in Bangkok for a couple days. We hope that we can have working level discussions starting again very soon.
Speaking to VOA, State Department spokesperson Morgan Ortagus said she could not rule talks with North Korean officials in or out.
You know, our negotiations with the North Koreans are some of the most sensitive things that we have to do anywhere in the world. So we are clearly going to be continuing to talk to our allies who face this issue quite closely, right? Whether it's North Korea, China, or a litany of issues in Southeast Asia.
The South China Sea is another area of concern, Ortagus told VOA, where China has asserted ownership over large areas, in violation of international law, the U.S. and other countries say.
And of course, as it relates to international waters, we have the firm commitment that we will sail our boats and fly our planes in international waters in according to those laws wherever we deem necessary.
The trip comes as U.S. and Chinese negotiators resume trade talks in Shanghai. President Donald Trump said China may be stalling because he believes they would prefer dealing with a Democratic president.
They would just love if I got defeated, so they could deal with somebody like Elizabeth Warren or Sleepy Joe Biden or any of these people, because then they'd be allowed and able to continue to rip off our country like they've been doing for the last 30 years.
Trump cautioned China's leaders if they wait to see if he wins re-election, the terms of any negotiations would be much tougher in a potential second term. Cindy Sain, VOA News, the State Department.
Now let's head over to the continent of Asia, where human rights groups have condemned excessive use of force by the police on Saturday against protesters demanding free election in Moscow. Human Rights Watch issued a statement saying Russian authorities use repression to face down dissent and assert control.
Saturday's protest was one of several held in the past 2 weeks in Moscow after election officials eliminated about 30 independent candidates from the ballot. Several thousand protesters came out to gather by City Hall despite the authorities' refusal to sanction the rally. Witnesses say police used brutal force against protesters, beating them and throwing some on the ground and dragging them away. Human Rights Watch says 1,373 people have been arrested, including Ilya Yashin, one of the opposition candidates who was excluded from the ballot. Yashin was sentenced to 10 days in prison on Monday, said his lawyer.
Of course, it is a political decision made in order to disqualify Yashin from the election and also to isolate him for a few weeks. I am sure it will have no effect. Protesters will take to the streets anyway.
One of the top protest organizers, Alexei Navalny, was arrested ahead of the Saturday protest and jailed for 30 days, but it has not deterred the opposition from gathering. However, Navalny got mysteriously sick in jail and had to be hospitalized.
I told doctors at the hospital that he should be left under medical supervision for at least 3 more days, when the key analyses and research are ready. However, sadly, by an order from above, he was escorted by the police back to jail.
Doctors at the hospital that treated Navalny say he had suffered an allergic reaction. Navalny's lawyer says it is more serious than that.
He was injected with huge amounts of steroids. Of course, the swelling is almost gone. But what we don't know is what next and how his body will react. He really was poisoned by some unidentified chemical agent. What was it and where was it? It's not been determined yet.
Navalny's case brings to mind high-profile poisonings of other Russian dissenters, most notably the 2006 death of former Russian agent Alexander Litvinenko in London. In 2015, a prominent Russian opposition leader, Boris Nemtsov, was assassinated on a bridge near the Kremlin in Moscow. Human Rights Watch says the Russian government's strong armed response is a warning to Russians that people who take to the streets, no matter how peacefully, to demand free and fair elections will face dire consequences. Both Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International have urged Russian authorities to release peaceful protesters and drop all charges against them. Zlarica Ho, VOA News, Washington.
Now to our special feature this afternoon. 10 years since Kimani Maruge, the holder of the Guinness World Book of Records for being the oldest person to enlist in primary school at the age of 84 years. The family has been feeling abandoned since the heroine demise and calls upon the government and well-wishers to come to their rescue.
A ghostly silence welcomes us at the sleepy Arashi village in Subukia sub-county at the north of Nakuru County as farmers toil on their farm for next season's harvest. At the village, the homestead of Kimani Maruge, abandoned and dilapidated. A man who in September 2005 boarded a plane for the first time and flew to New York to address the United Nations Millennium Development Summit on the importance of free primary education. Regina Wairimu, a 62-year-old daughter of the fallen freedom combatant, feels her father brought renown to the country after being the holder of the Guinness World Book of Records for being the oldest student who ever attended school, thus changing the global narrative of education, but his family remains pointedly neglected. She says a framed newspaper cutting of a story published on a local daily about his father's boundless enthusiasm on matters freedom and education is all she has to share with anyone curious to know about him. The Guinness World Book of Records acknowledges Wairimu's father as a hero and further salutes him for having been the oldest person on the planet to enlist in primary school at the age of 84 years. In 2005, at a United Nations Millennium Development Summit, the octogenarian helped paint a human face on the need for expanded access to free basic education and was even immortalized in a world-selling movie, The First Grader, premiered on May 13, 2011. The film was well received, coming second in People's Choice category at 2014's Toronto International Film Festival. Even so, Maruge's family says that they never received a penny from its producers.
Maana hatujui vile kunaendeleanga. Na tungetaka kujua kitabu yake inaendaga namna gani.
The daughter laments that all these milestones do not hold much value to their family, that she says languishes in grinding poverty, despite being promised of a dignifying mausoleum for his father, 5 acres of arable land and a decent house in remembrance of what they termed as a hero on his burial day. At a secluded corner of his homestead lies his tomb in a derelict state, while walls to his former abode are leaning precariously with a leaking roof, having seen its better days. Wairimu Muruge, who is the second child, says despondency has become a constant companion of Maruge's 4 children after high-flying personalities locally and abroad raised their hopes only to abandon them.
Sana miti iongezwe hapa na Kayaba, tuweke laini hii yote. Nde mutengeneze tunjaze laini hii yote.
Wairimu is calling upon entities and individuals that made promises to the family to exercise a sense of sincerity and responsibility by honoring them as a way of honoring their father, who she says was instrumental in promoting basic education on the global stage. As a caretaker of the hero's home, she would like to take it upon herself and reward her father posthumously for his noble move that she says has brought good tidings for many on the continent, but she cannot afford it. Each day she can only hope that there will come a time that those who gave Maruge's family hope will do good by them by fulfilling their promises.
Now let's get sporty, where Harambee Stars have already started to tighten their boots for the African Nation Championship second leg qualifier match scheduled to be played at Kasarani Stadium on Saturday. And as our reporter Davis Mberia informs us, Sebastian Minye boys will have to be cautious in the tricky tie considering they picked a draw away with Tanzania.
Keep going! Harambee Stars kicked off their training at Kasarani Stadium today in preparation for the African Nation Championship CHAN second leg qualifier match against Taifa Stars of Tanzania that will be played at the Moi Kasarani Stadium on Sunday this week. Harambee Stars handed themselves a slim advantage over Tanzania's Taifa Stars in the first leg first round qualifier in Dar es Salaam on Sunday evening after playing to a 0-0 draw with the hosts. Minye handed the first team debut to 18-year-old Musa Masika, young brother to senior team winger Ayub Masika, keeper John Oyemba, and last season's Kenya Premier League top scorer Enosh Ochieng, who led the attack alongside Kariobangi Sharks man Duke Abuya.
We need to continue to work hard and to try to be qualified next Sunday.
On Monday, FKF President Nick Mwendwa announced he has lowered gate charges for this match by between 30 to 60% to 100 shillings. Kenya need a win to eliminate Tanzania and progress, but Taifa Stars could scrap through with a scoring draw.
I don't think there's a lot of pressure for us because we did the job in the first leg, and only the second leg we have also to continue doing the job. Yeah, it depends on the 90 minutes.
If the match ends goalless after 90 minutes, post-match penalties will be taken to determine the winner.
Yeah, of course, we are at home. We have to give a good result and we have to give our best and everything in the pitch. So we hope that everything will work for us, and the fans, when the fans are behind us, we're going to give our best and hopefully the results are going to go away.
Kenya has failed to qualify for all the 5 editions of this tournament, including the 2018 One-Win Stars, after the country lost the hosting rights. Davis Mberia, Ebru Sports.
Now to the basketball court, where the NBA-backed Basketball African League unveiled host cities for its inaugural season, with the Kigali, Rwanda as the named host city for the first semi-final and championship games in Egypt, Dakar, Senegal, Nigeria, Angola, Morocco and Tunis were announced as the sites for basketball the regular season. The league, featuring 12 club teams from across Africa, is set to begin play in March 2020. The 12 team will be divided into 2 6-team conferences, each conference playing game in 3 of the 6 host cities. Each team will play 5 regular season games, with the top 3 clubs in each conference advancing to playoffs. The NBA announced its first collaboration to operate a league outside North America in February, working alongside world governing body FIFA. Now to athletic matters, where Caster Semenya will not compete at the World Championship in Doha after a Swiss court stood behind an IAAF rule that will require her to take testosterone-reducing medication. The South African had expected to defend her World 800-meter title in late September after the Swiss Supreme Court had temporarily exempted her from an IAAF rule relating to the athletes with differences in sexual development.
600 nawet. Nawet 6, mamy delikatną korektę. Justyna Święty-Ersetic 51 sekund 45 setnych. Jessica Bert 51:48. Małgorzata Kołobkowalik też.
Now to the boxing arena, where boxer Dillian Whyte's status as the interim world heavyweight champion and mandatory challenger to Deontay Wilder has provisionally been suspended by the World Boxing Council. The decision follows a test that found Dillian positive for a banned substance 3 days before he beat Oscar Rivas on the 20th of July this year. He was duly cleared to take part in the fight with Colombian Rivas, which he won on points after attending an independent panel hearing. However, in a statement Tuesday night, WBC revealed that the UK anti-doping collected an A sample from Dillian Whyte in relation with his bout against Rivas that yielded an advanced finding, with the UK anti-doping declining to comment over the matter. The 31-year-old boxer has, however, been allowed to present his case to the WBC.
Boksör de uzun hazırlık kampından bu karşılaşmaya geldiler ve ortaya çıkan bir dövüş planı oldu ve özellikle köşe adamları bu planın.
Now to the tennis court, where the Washington Open went underway Tuesday night with lots of action in both the men's and women categories as American teenage Sebastian Coco Gauff got bundled out of the competition after losing to Kazakhstan Zarina Diaz in straight sets in the first round. The 15-year-old continued her brilliant form from Wimbledon, qualifying for the third WTA draw for her career, unfortunately losing 6-4, 6-2 against world number 84 Diaz. Top seed and former champion Solange Stevens, on the other hand, fell to a shocking 6-2, 7-5 first-round defeat to Sweden's Rebecca Peterson. Meanwhile, in the men's category, British number one Kyle Edmund qualified for the third round of the competition with a straight-set win over South African Lloyd Harris, who he beat 6-1, 6-4 in just 1 hour and 9 minutes.
Oh, it's just easy. Easy. Into the net, and Diaz has done it against all the odds, with all the crowd against her, and she has delivered in the blazing heat of Washington, D.C.
Well, that is all we had for you in our first segment, but don't go too far. I'll be back here with Business Insight, of course, with the latest in the world of business. Don't go too far.